right, it is just after the top of the hour. We have a few more folks coming in, but I think we can get rolling. So welcome everyone. I see some familiar names here: Courtney and Cynthia and Dean. Who else is in here today? Jason, Jill, Larry, Latrice, Matt, Monica. Welcome everyone. It's great to have you here. Josh is going to, I think, give you some good words of advice on how to become an even more successful realtor today. So let's turn to our next page. I want to introduce Josh officially, and then we'll jump in.
Hello.
So Josh Flo is he's a premier agent. He's an amazing agent. Should I say that?
Thanks.
He works with iHome Hunt, and that's a company located in the Minneapolis area, actually the St. Paul side, on the other side of the bridge, for those that know the area. And there's a big difference, right, Josh? I love St. Paul.
Frankly. Oh yeah. There's now a little bit of rivalry there. Yeah.
There sure is. I grew up in Buffalo, which is more like St. Paul, so I relate to that side of the house, which is awesome. So we're going to talk today about building lifelong client relationships, and I'm even going to maybe cut out client for a second and call it lifelong human relationships, right? Yeah. Because sometimes we have a tendency, when we start talking tech, we forget we're still talking about regular humans, right? That have regular emotions, kids in school, soccer games to go to, parents that are sick, weddings to attend, all the normal stuff, right? They're just regular people, and sometimes if we get too focused on what we want out of them, as opposed to remembering that they still have all those other things in their life, we can get a little out of touch. So let's flip to the next slide. Let's just talk a little bit about that. So, when you think about building lifelong human relationships, let's just start at the beginning, Josh. Like, why is that important? Why does that matter in real estate?
Well, I think I like I was mentioning when we were talking about it, I just look at myself, and it's just, when I sign up for something, I might be, 1% interested, and I'm just starting to learn about it. And I'll get the bot text messages and the phone calls, and I ignore them, not because I'm, being rude, but because it's just not relevant in my life. So I just try and take that perspective from everything that we're building. Make sure and reach out to people. Phone call is the biggest thing in the human touch. And I just ask them, is now a good time? They can tell me, no, it's fine. And if so, it's a good time. I barely even need to tell them what I'm calling for. Because a lot of the things that we do is like, this is Josh Flo. When do you want to buy a house? And it's like, whoa. Right? Yeah. So just slow down. Is kind of
it's like, nice to meet you. Want to get married? It's like, no, I don't. Like, whoa, stop that. I'm a little scared. Yeah.
Are you pretty? Whoa. Yeah.
That's awesome. And you mentioned a statistic a little while ago that actually came from Boomtown that I thought was fascinating. What is the average time to close between when you meet someone and when they actually transact?
So 36% of them come in are actually 2+ years from their data that they saw. And it could be a little bit off, but I saw a screenshot of it come from them on their fast class that they put out. So that's where kind of we're building it from, like just getting people in there, not trying to hit any sort of conversion percentages or anything, just focusing on step by step, like how are we handling the leads and where do we need to make the tweaks? So
let's just walk through these takeaways, because I think they're all great statements, but I want to hear your perspective on what you mean by that one. So what does it mean? And I'm going to couch it in a negative just because I'm tired of hearing these negatives, but it's the truth, right? A lot of people are like, oh, realtors don't do any work. They don't earn their money, blah, blah, blah. They don't provide value. And by the way, I just did research I'm going to publish. It completely denies that statement about that. Like, people really do appreciate their realtors, which is awesome. But like, what does that mean to provide undeniable value? Like, what are you giving them?
Yeah. So, I mean, the thing is like that. So, I mean, you can show us the statistics too, but I just agree. I agree with people. Some don't give value. Some don't do a lot of work. Some do the bare minimum. And unfortunately, that's what gets seen. I'm just brief story. I had a closing blow up very recently, and I was all hands on deck. And I kind of jokingly said that to the client. I said, see, realtors do something. And she goes, oh no, we've seen it. So it's kind of like, if everything goes smoothly, yeah, our jobs could be, easy and streamlined and that stuff, but we kind of know that it doesn't. So really what we do is handle all the problems in the background so they never have to get to the clients. We're just the knowledge base. So, I mean, that's the way that I look at it. Like I tell people,
Right.
of course you can sell your own house. Like you have Zillow, you have the tools, do you have the time? Do you want to? Like you just make it a different conversation. Like I had a guy install my
Right.
fan in my house today. Of course I'm capable, but do I want to? Do I want to learn how to do the
Right.
wiring? Do I want to, have to, call a guy when it's a one switch versus another switch? I mean, so it's just that kind of conversation is what I have with people. So.
Well, and you've gone, it's like the same, that's a great analogy, right? That guy's installed 7,000 fans. You would do one, and God only knows, my husband's tried that and ended up like throwing himself off a ladder with getting a shock. So
Yeah,
it's not always the greatest idea to do it on your own, but
it
so
would take
let's,
you all day,
right.
So,
Yeah, right. And that would take you away from doing what you love to do, which is sell real estate. So let's talk about someone that's in that 2-year cycle, right? This is one of the trouble then, frankly, as a salesperson, we've all been in this place. Sometimes you're like, oh my God, you look at your funnel for next month and you're like, oh, how am I going to close some business, right? And it doesn't necessarily happen that quickly, especially the statistic you just said, right? So if someone's in that 2-year
you got to
window,
remember that there's another 74% that close sooner than that. That's just
right?
the biggest bulk of a time frame. So
But even if you're, let's say you're not, whatever the time frame is, you're not yet in a transaction,
yeah,
right? You're trying to warm them up to want to work with you. So they believe in you. So you're going to be that one they're going to work with. So how do you know that balance between building an individual Josh Flo specific relationship versus using automation tools to surround your communications? How do you find that balance?
just listen to them.
Okay.
Like, I mean, that's all it boils down to. Like, I mean, if we're talking about a human connection, then you can't quantify it. You can't put any boundaries around it. You can't even put it into words. You can just listen to what the person's telling you, and you make the adjustments. So the way that I explain it to my team is we're not trying to pull them into our world. We're trying to figure out how to fit into their world.
Love that.
So that's, I guess, if I had to put it into words, that's one way that I try and get it across. Yes.
That makes sense. Yeah.
To
And
your point, we don't know if they're having a good day, bad day, anything like that. They're just having a day. And we're
right.
we're screaming into their world and asking them, are they pre-approved? How many kids they got? What's their favorite? You know what I mean? Like just going nuts on them. It's like,
Mhm.
hey, Josh Flo calling, iHome Hunt is now a good time.
Right. And if it's
You
not,
know?
then you expect that and go on. But I would guess when you ask them that, they'll tell you, no, it's not, but next Tuesday would work or something, right? Do they give you an
Or
alternative
they go,
time?
I said, I tell you what, if it's not, doesn't matter to me. I can set you up for a time that it is. And then you'll get one of two answers. You'll get, you know what? They'll just tell you. I had one guy tell me next Tuesday, between 11 and 12. Cool. Set an alarm. I'll call you.
Right.
Done. So it's just the overcomplicating of it. Start with one simple statement, ask them the first question that is now a good time. And then, in an instant, if they can't talk to you or if they can. Most people are kind enough. And if they don't want to talk to you at all, they'll tell you. Then you know that you throw them in the archive and you keep hitting them with drip campaigns and e-alerts until they really tell you to get bent. And then you find other ways to reach out to them anyway. As I'm teasing, but it's just, let it be what it is. Don't try and force change on everything.
Right. So let me ask you a very current question. We here at RE Technology have been talking about, the COVID factor since March of 2000, right? It's been a long time, but we are now in at least from all things that I've read and seen and people I've talked to, we're kind of in this era of like, oh boy, what's happening in the world? We're kind of like, it's uncertain, right? The stock market's going down, inflation's happening,
Yeah.
Interest rates are going up. Like, when you're talking to people right now, are you seeing a different kind of response to you in terms of, right? And is all of that affecting the way they're talking to you at this point, or is that kind of not an
It
issue?
does, but I divorce myself from all of it. So people will talk about high interest rates. Well, then what's the conversation that you have? And the one that I have is, okay, so you're going to pay this amount of money to live somewhere, like
Right.
$1,500, let's call it, right? You're going to
Yep.
pay that in rent or you're going to pay that in mortgage. So we start backwards again. We
Okay.
take $1,500 to our mortgage guy and we say, how much house can they buy at the current interest rate? Then you
Right.
give the person a very simple proposition. You show them all the houses that are available in that price range. Would you like to buy a house in this price range? Yes or no? Well, sometimes it's a yes, sometimes it's a no. Well, then here's what you need to do to afford this much house with this interest rate. Because then you tell them the beautiful thing about mortgages is it's a one-way street. So when you lock in a mortgage, it's never going higher. And as long as you
Right.
keep your credit score intact, you refinance when it goes lower. So it's the best investment vehicle in the entire world, if I'm being honest, because you always
Right.
know the only way it's going to go is to your benefit. So if the point is, like, if you can afford, say, $2,000 a month to live somewhere, and this house that you can currently afford at $2,000 a month, would you agree that you'd rather own a home than rent a home? Most people are going to say yes to that. So it's just having a different conversation.
I love that.
How much house do you want? 600,000. Cool.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Yeah.
tell us much. So
Right. And do you give them any perspective? Not that people probably care, but I'm just curious. Certainly interest rates have been a lot higher than 5% in the past. Like, do you give them any perspective that even 5, even though it's not 3.5, is still a really affordable rate, or
I
don't
do
go into
for
that?
perspective, but I like just the more guts conversation where it's like, look,
Yeah.
you're going to pay money to live somewhere.
Right.
What are your fears and how do we help you through those?
Gotcha. Okay, so what's the next one here? Talking about creating a seamless click to close experience. What does that mean? Like, how do you make it? Because we just did a survey, for example, where we asked buyers about the people that have bought since COVID, and there's a lot of angst, frustration. I stood in line with 47 other people, I had to put an offer in 20 minutes, all the stuff that this kind of hot market creates. But how do you create a seamless and hopefully not so stressful click to close experience?
Just again, by listening, you just got to learn their fears. What's holding them back. You just have to get to know them. And then once you do, like, you can have, like we said, human to human contact. Like, you just have to empathize with them, understand their fears and not try and, we get so hung up on objection handlers, and they're good, but sometimes people don't need to hear, the objection handler. Sometimes they need to hear they're right and that there's a different way to look at it.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah.
there's, just feeling out which way, is the best way to go, because sometimes it's a knee-jerk reaction. There's really no guts to it. It's just something that other people say. But other times it's a deeply ingrained, fear of their own, and you got to spend a little more time on it. So it's just
Yeah.
having the communication and then just getting back to talking to people.
Well, it was interesting. I was talking to a reporter the other day, and we had just done a study, and it depends on your perspective. From my perspective as someone from the industry, it was very positive about a lot of the things that realtors do in this particular situation. And when I told the reporter it was very positive, she goes, "Yeah, I have no interest." It's like, no, I only want negative things. So, sometimes people are colored by all of this stuff. That what's the media trying to do? They're trying to sell newspapers, right? They're trying to get us to watch that article, right? They're not trying to actually educate us about really what's going on in a market, whether it's real estate or anything else, right? So it's kind of fun that you're saying, just listen to them. Some of those things might be unfounded. You might have actually data to counter it or a perspective to counter it, but just listen. Like, I love what you're saying, Josh, because I think sometimes we get so complicated. We like overthink all this stuff. And the truth is, it's a human trying to make a very exciting but difficult decision, and you're there to support them.
Yeah, that's part of the job.
Yeah.
So really quick, so I'll end that point with this.
Okay.
3 seconds. If you want a solid thing to remember, when somebody finished talking, 3 seconds. It's awkward. You want to fill the space. So do they. Let them fill the space, because they're going to tell you more stuff. So that'll help, I hope.
That's awesome. That's a great point of it. It is really hard to do that, especially when you're excited and you want to share ideas with them. But that's
so pause yourself. You can be excited, but then when you're done talking, let them start. So the key is that, yes, be excited, because people enjoy excitement, but when you're done and they start talking, that's when you go back to the 3 seconds. Just wait until they're done. And I've had people tell me every single question I had by not saying a word, or just saying, tell me more about that. Or, oh, you have a really big deck. What do you do out there? And you just take like 2 or 3 words that they say and ask them another question they feel listened to, and then they'll tell you more. And that's just common communication. So study your heart out on communication and you'll do great.
Yeah, it's funny. Sometimes when people first get into sales positions, they think it's all about selling. The truth is, it's really all about listening. And that's what you're saying, right? It's like asking, if you ask the right question.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Okay, so you're doing all of this. Now, how are you turning them into raving fans? And what is a raving fan in your definition?
So I have a saying, clients needs first always. And the reason is that, I've walked away from commissions before to the benefit of the client. Because I think we get, and this is not right, wrong, or otherwise. I take each individual situation at face value and decide what to do with it. So you have to have a set of standard business practices, but that doesn't mean that you can't bend them every once in a while if there's a real human need that you can help fulfill. And it doesn't always have to be with money either. It's like I got trained. So if I'm being perfectly honest, I hated real estate because I hated all the ways I was being trained around it. It's like if you do something nice for somebody, you're setting expectations. So I was all dialed in on being this nice professional realtor, and it sucked. And so I stopped doing it.
That's awesome.
It's me. And somebody will like it or somebody won't, but I feel like most people do. So
you take the long road, the long view. If somebody shouldn't be doing something at this moment, even though you might make a commission on it, you're saying it's not the right thing, let's hold off, or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. And the key to that is, making sure that you're financially, sound. So don't get me wrong. When you need money, of course you want closing. So then you just, get some financial stuff going, give yourself a salary or whatever you got to do, just get yourself right. And then you can take care of other people.
Perfect. Okay, good. Let's go to the next slide. So tell me about what a lead concierge service is. And this is part of the Boomtown's solution. But I really want to hear how, because what I'm hearing you say, Josh, is that and I had a woman describe this to me one time. I thought it was awesome. She said, technology is like a great purse to match a gorgeous outfit. It's not what it's about, but it helps support the bigger point of view. What I'm hearing you say is you're very much about human connection.
Yeah.
But how does a program like this support the philosophy of someone that really is a people person?
I don't have to be the people person. That's how,
Right.
so it's also remembering that we only have so much time. So where is our time most importantly spent? And we're always making that decision throughout our entire days. So knowing that when a lead first hits us is actually the least likely occasion when they're going to want to work with us. So allowing the concierge to sort of do their thing, because the point is that, if you sign up for something, you never get a message, you never get a phone call, you forget about it. So the best use of the concierge in my mind is for that immediate touch, for that immediate message, for that immediate get them in our ecosystem. And I've been bad about it. But I had my coach, when I was getting everything set up, set me 7 days out after they hit, that I can go in and filter them with one of my smart filters and make the phone calls. So I'm being honest, in my growth, I've been bad about that, but I know it's there, and I'm going to get back to it. So it's just, even that, like, something's in place and we get caught up and we have to do 100 things a day. And if you do 5 of the most important things in your day, your tomorrow is going to be better regardless. So it's just, you got to really forget about all the busy work. And Bridget, I'm sorry, that's why I've been bad with email. But I get in there. It's just the least of my worries, because emails are usually not immediate. They're a couple days, and if it is immediate, people usually call me and start screaming at me, and then I fix it. So,
they'll prioritize for you.
Yeah. They'll bring you kicking and screaming into their world. Trust me, they'll let you know.
So a couple of questions for you. And this is another one of those, we all hear from agents, and
that wasn't you, Bridget, by the way. I didn't mean to bulk you into that one. That was a different thing. That wasn't Bridget, guys.
Not to worry.
Good. So one of the things that I hear from I'll call them Realtor Naysayers, right? Because there's a lot of people that I think in their hearts know what to do, but they don't. And then when you call them on it, they kind of get excusey about it. So one of the things I hear a lot is that, online leads, there's different numbers, 97%, 98%, 99%, whatever. It's a high percentage, right? people will tell you that they're junk and they're not worth their time. And so they ignore them. And what you're telling me here is you don't have to ignore them. The system's going to kind of weed out the ones that are really the most important for you. So that I would guess that percentage of qualified leads, when you're even a week out or a month out or 90 days out, is going to be a lot better than just coming at it and saying, I've got to be that first contact. Is that a fair statement? Would you agree with that?
Yeah. And then, well, yeah, you don't have to be. It just has to be a contact. And so the interesting thing is that people very rarely remember the words that you say. They only remember how you make them feel. So that's, I keep that in mind. The Boomtown trains their people very well. And I know that they're working on all of that, and I trust them to do that. So I know that when a person gets called, they're going to feel warm, they're going to feel welcome, they're going to feel good. And that's the only intent that's needed. We don't need to convert them. We don't need to do anything. We just want to say, hey, hi, thanks for signing up, and then we'll just figure it out from there. We'll have a couple more conversations and see if it's the right time. It's to me, it's about slowing down. You don't have to get 20 questions answered on the first phone call. You can get one. Because people are short on time the way it is. Stop trying to do so much time from them,
Yeah, it just, what I'm hearing you say is like you say, slow down. Don't put so much pressure on them because you wouldn't.
Or yourself for that matter.
Yeah, well, that too.
You can't control them in any factor. Sure, we got little tricks that we use, but that's about it. So
right. Yeah, gotcha. Okay, that's awesome. And what you're saying is the human touch. We all know that it's, well, I shouldn't say we all know. We all, I think we know that that's.
We know we've been trained otherwise.
Right. Right. But at the end of the day, it's, the person in your neighborhood that you call, it's your friend that you may not talk about real estate at all. That's where it happens. But when you look at kind of, your day, you've got, of course, there's, you've got a closing, right? Or you've got to show houses, or there's times when you're like offline because you're literally working with one particular client. But how much of your time of your day would you say is working on, you said you had 600 or 700 people in your database, something like that. Like how much of your time is working on helping each of them to get what they need from you to create some of those relationships?
That's where the systematizing of it comes in. So what we want to do is, find out what they're doing. For instance, we have Deanne and her husband, Steve. That's a system.
Okay.
I just reached out to Deanne as, and a lot of these things that I say is things that Boomtown tells us. We just have to do them, and so they have all the data and all the training and all that stuff. It's just like, so when I called Deanna, I took advice from them and I said, because we don't call because we haven't called and we feel like, oh, it's going to be a weird call. So Boomtown just says, well, make yourself the CEO or the client care, concierge, or whatever the heck you want. Call yourself anything. And I said, hey, Josh Flo, premier agent, ihomehunt.com. I'm just calling to make sure you're still getting the same search result or the best search or the results that whatever, however you want to say it. Right.
Right.
And she goes, so I could tell, kind of caught her off guard. I said, nope, not trying to, ask you if you want to buy or anything. I just want to make sure you're set up. And she told me everything I needed to know, because you just have to, like, when they say come from contribution, that's it. Like, I know what I want them to do. I'm asking them what they want to do. Right. And they want to retire and move to a lake home. They don't know when that's going to be. So the only thing they need is a search. And so I called Deanna, a week ago. And I said, hey, I've had a crazy 2 weeks. I haven't been in touch with you. I'm so sorry if I missed anything. And she goes, no, not to worry. We were actually on vacation for 2 weeks and we just got back. Great. And she's been back on my search site every day since. So it's just like, you don't have to force anything. You just need to talk to people.
So refreshing to hear that. I think I do think you're right. I think realtors put a lot of pressure on themselves. Like, if I'm not because we've all heard that the time blocked, amazingly organized and disciplined person that's like, well, from 8 to 8:15, I do this. And then from 8:15 to 8:30, I do that. And most of us are not like that, right?
It does work.
Very encouraging. Yeah. Okay. Next slide.
Thank you for that, by the
way. There we go. Okay. There. One more. There, perfect. All right. So I love the concept of white glove service. I think that you're kind of talking about a more informal way of white glove service, right? But tell me about each of these
I
things.
guess,
So, like,
yeah.
so if there is an opportunity, we talked about this, that they come in, but like, how do you make sure that you find that you can separate the wheat from the chaff, so to speak? How do you make sure with this kind of concierge service that nothing gets left behind?
I mean, you can't. So at first, you got to start with realizing that you can't prevent that. There's so many people vying for somebody's business that you're going to lose leads. They're going to go somewhere else, and it's just letting that be is what it is. And then what can you do to increase the odds that they want to stay with you? And so what we're figuring out is not wasting our time on the first call, because Boomtown has given us an incredible tool to leverage for that.
Okay.
And then so when we do go in to sort our leads, we just have to look at the concierge. Did they pick up? Have they responded to a text? What does their search look like? We have all the data we could ever need to build a picture of that person before ever even talking to them. We just have to slow down and take the time to look at the data. Because if somebody's not talking to the concierge, but they're searching like crazy, saying, Oakdale, where I live, well, maybe they're super interested. They just don't want to talk to anybody. So then what do you do? You're like, okay, they're not responding to concierge, so they don't want a realtor. I reach out to my lender partner and I say, hey, I got a lead searching like crazy. Give them a check-in call. I loop the lender in, because you have business partners and they need to talk to somebody, and maybe they'd rather talk to a lender. Maybe they're looking, but they don't know what their credit score looks like. So it's just looking at the data and then making a decision on the next step, not having a scheduled next step. A scheduled next step is fine because it's going to get you in there with the lead, but then you look at the data.
Gotcha.
What notes were made, what were they searching at? They pause for a while. I mean, there's just so much there. So
it sounds like from what you're saying too, Boomtown's really helpful at teaching you like where to use your time wisely. Is that like it seems like they're training you to know how to look at the data and know how to use it
they
effectively.
nonstop teach. We just don't learn. So that's the thing. So
okay, there's lesson number one. Stop non-stop learning, or non-stop teaching, but learning, right? Pay attention.
Yeah.
These guys know what they're doing. Boomtown is by far one of the most
I actually think they're doing it a heck of a service by not completely taking over the entire real estate world and allowing us to have jobs.
That's awesome. All right, so this is another one of those excuses I hear. Well, my database is a big mess. I got it on sticky notes. I got it on my phone. I've got it written on my hand. I got them all over the place. Like, how do I get to a database that's actually manageable and actually makes any sense? And then once I do, what do I do with it? So how do you deal with that issue?
So I'll say it from my perspective, and this is one thing that drove me batty as well. Since I didn't do time blocking very well, and since I didn't like sit in one spot for very long, very well, I was never in there for very long. So I very quickly realized that I just needed to leverage every bit of automation that I can. And then it's like when I say step by step by step by step, is because you can look at each dialed in step and then know where the human touch is needed. And you keep it fluid. So that's the other thing that I think we forget, is just because you're doing something doesn't mean it has to stay that way.
Right.
You can do something and it can be completely wrong, and then it's wrong. And then we were talking about the buts. I'll just say that really quick. So I need to do this, but I just get rid of the but. If you need to do it, do it. Just start doing it, and then you're gonna figure out the steps. And the biggest excuse that I get from people is, what's my first step? Like, I don't know. Like, just do a step, and then you'll find out if you do one before it. Or maybe you're 5 steps ahead and you don't need the first 4. I don't know. Maybe you found a life hack and we've all been doing things wrong. Just do it. So, I mean, what's the worst that's going to happen? Somebody's going to tell you no. Well, you didn't have a client before you made a phone call. So, I mean, you're never going to end up you really rarely are going to end up in a worse position by doing something.
Exactly. I don't know if you've read a Josh book, but there's a great book called Atomic Habits. Have you read that book?
I started to.
Yeah, yeah.
Before we'll tell you why I didn't finish, but I do a lot of audiobooks now. That's helpful.
Well, but the one thing that that book says, and I didn't finish it either, so you can feel better. I did read a lot of it.
Yeah.
Was they talk about the 1% improvement, and it's kind of what you're saying, right? Just try one, like one little thing. You don't have to reinvent your whole brain, the whole way you think about real estate, any of that stuff. But if you think there's one thing, or you hear one thing on this, this call today that makes sense, you just try one thing. You don't have to like make it for 12 hours, just one thing for 5 minutes. And I thought that was a really good takeaway, because I think sometimes we get like, we see this wall of change or this wall of overhaul that we have to do, and then we just like, oh, it's too big a wall, and we just give up, we stop. So just like you said, just try one little thing. Who knows if it'll work or not, but if it doesn't, you'll learn something that probably could. And if it does work, well, so much the better, right?
Or you're just stumbling your way through it and you got a client. Like,
Right. Sometimes you get lucky.
I've had several phone calls where I didn't know what I was going to say, and I just did it, and I somehow ended up on the other side okay. So
That's awesome. So what, this, I think this is a big one, is time management, right? So that's another one of the buts we hear is, well, I'm too busy. I'm too busy to nurture. I'm too busy to learn how to use an automated system to its fullest extent, et cetera, et cetera. What's your answer for that one?
I'm a father of three with 3 girls, 7, 10, and 12, that are out of school summer with me all day, every day, and I can still run a real estate business. So that being said, I'm no rock star. You just have to find a way to make it work. I moved my desk into the garage. It's very temporary. It's a 1-foot standing desk, but it gets me out of the noise.
Mhm.
Right. So, I mean, just the small tweaks, just take your computer with you, or, well, for instance, so I have a tile tag that I put in my computer bag, and I keep everything necessary to my business in that bag. And if I leave without that bag, I get a notice on my phone that I don't have that bag. So it's just setting yourself up for success, preparing in advance for the times that you'll need something. And then you can just live your life. I mean, I've worked at midnight before, not because I want to work at midnight, because I spent the entire evening with my kids and I still had work to do. So
Right.
then I just stay up, and it's like, but that's also not an everyday thing. They're with their friends. Sometimes they don't care about me. So then when I talk about that, I think I call it weaving it into my life. I live my life and I weave business in as I go. Like, I'm aware of my obligations. I'm aware of the things that I need to do, but I just wake up better and I feel better doing what I want, and then weaving in business. I mean, we're driving between appointments. We can fit in like 4 phone calls. You can solve 7 days worth of stuff in 4 phone calls.
Right.
You can ask somebody for a favor and collapse 4 hours of time. So it's just, you just got to slow down and think about it, really.
So we have a thing in our business, we call it the working on the business. And we dedicate 90 minutes a week to something that we think will make the business better, whether it's brainstorming a new way to do something, but in this context, right? If you said, I don't have time to build automation, but if you dedicated 90 minutes a week to even just one piece of automation, right? And you'd have the discipline to just keep that 90 minutes. And it's basically like me time, right? It's like me business time. You can come up with some great stuff and you can make a lot of progress, and you're going to feel really good about yourself that you did make that time. You did get away from that butt, and you said, all right, I'm going to spend 90 minutes. I'm going to schedule time with an amazing trainer at Boomtown that's going to show me how to automate this part of the process. Right.
Yeah.
It's not that hard, but you got to make that commitment to yourself, because if otherwise the day gets pulled and pushed and you lose the energy.
Yeah. So I will say this to that point. I don't completely ignore things. I found an app that works for me called Galarm. It's G Alarm. You can set it just like a calendar, but that's what it went off in our 30 minutes prior that I ran away with and threw it outside. So it didn't go off on our call. But anyway, like probably 24 alarms I have set during the day of things I either need to do or reminders I want for myself. So like go completely off of real estate. I'll go to physical fitness. I have an alarm that goes off every day that tells me to do 5 push-ups and 5 squats. That's easy.
That's awesome.
Easy and attainable. It goes off, do 5 push-ups and 5 squats. It'll take you a minute and a half at most.
Right.
So you do have time. We just waste it doing unnecessary things to wrap around to your point. Just offload the necessary things. You don't have to pay somebody. You can ask a favor. You have friends, you have family, and it doesn't have to be monetary. It's like if I call my cousin Bob, can you do a showing for me? I'll, do whatever. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I'm actually over there right now. Like you just like it all comes back to communication. We can collapse so much time by just talking to somebody. So as far as time management, that's the biggest thing is phone calls, communications, get all the questions answered, all the details. And then you usually end the phone call where each of you have like a to do, and then it's good.
Gotcha. And Galarm, GALARM.com. That's the
Yeah,
app.
alarm. Yep.
Galarm. That's a good one.
Alarm. So, yeah.
Perfect. Okay, good. Yeah, that's it. And like you say, that's another sort of atomic habit kind of thing, right? You don't have to go and work out for 2 hours and become Atlas man. You just have to give yourself a little time to like build up your energy again, build up your
Yeah, we're making things too big. We're talk hour time blocks, and so we got to bring it little. And I've brought it almost down to nothing, to an alarm that goes off, and I choose if I want to do it then or do I want to snooze the alarm. But either way, it gets done. I just choose the time when it gets done.
Right. And are those things that come on automatically? Like you say, okay, at 8 o'clock every morning, I'm going to do 5 sit-ups, and it programs that to keep going every day, or do you have to set it every day?
It goes every day. So Galarm, you can actually set up really sweetly, just like a calendar. So
Okay,
like
got it.
pick days, times, schedules, colors. You can organize by home, work. Like it's an insanely powerful tool in Maryland. If you're like me, you're gonna love it. It sounds like you might
Try
be.
it.
So it just brings you back to your focus. I put my affirmations in there. I
Mhm.
put one that so I have an old phone that I powered on, and I put alarms on that, and those are dedicated to my affirmations. I have signs around my house that say "Smart AF." It's as but I put that on my phone because I want, it's jokingly also to teach my kids. I found them as graduation signs, but I put them up in their rooms, in our rooms, so it's like, just find things to do the things that you want, and then do the things.
It's awesome. I love it. Yeah. Did you put the SFAF in your little kids' rooms too?
Yeah, it's everywhere. Well, yeah, because then it stands out, right? It doesn't say just smart. It's something funny. They can talk about their friends. What it stands out to them. So then they're in their mind, whether they realize it or not, saying smart AF, so.
No, they think you're a cool dad for doing that too. I bet. That's awesome.
I am a cool dad.
That's important.
No,
According to you, you're a cool dad.
no,
I know.
they don't think so. The way that they look at me says otherwise, but I'm going to keep believing it. So.
Awesome. Okay, next slide. Okay, so this one's a biggie too, right? So, NAR does studies, California Association, everybody does studies on this, right? And they basically gig realtors for having, amazing relationships for a period of time, and then letting that person fall off the edge of the cliff. And then when it's time for that person to come back around to do another transaction, they've forgotten who you are, or they've forgotten who what you did for them. And you lose that relationship, you lose that long-term relationship you're talking about. So what's your balance on this between, again, how does automation help you with this, and how does the human touch help you with this stuff?
So this one will be a big one for a lot of people. I think it's the personalmarketingcompany.com. It's acronym. So TPM Co. TPMCO.com. They have a $25 5-year follow-up plan.
Okay.
It's very low touch,
TMPco.com. I'll put it in the chat.
The personalmarketingcompany.com, and it's so tmpco.com, and they have a $25 follow-up plan where you'll send a congratulations postcard. You can put the picture of the front of the house on there. They'll send them magazines, and it's a low touch thing, but it's an affordable way to make sure that you're at least making touches. And I don't think anybody can not afford $25 after they just got a $6,000, $12,000 check or whatever you're making in your market, right? Like we hold all that money close to our chest, and we don't have to.
Mhm.
So it's scary because we're in business, but we also have to remember that we're in business. Like, so we have to do these things and we have to pay for them. And if we're not, then we're not in business. We're just constantly struggling to figure out where our next, paycheck is coming from. But that's not to say that that's fine. It's just that the structure needs to change. Then you don't want to be the realtor. You just want to be a realtor, right? And that's okay. So we pride ourselves on transactions, and there's a lot of realtors that are going for 100 because they don't want to fall behind. And it's like, if you do 6 deals a year or 12 or 20 or 1,000 or whatever it is, just I sit down with the people that I'm working with and I ask them, what do you want to do this year? Because I don't care. What do you want to do? And I
Right.
will help you do that.
Mhm.
Then the next person, what do you want to do? Because there's going to be people that want to do 100, 200, 300, 400 or whatever. But there's
Mhm.
also people that are like, no, I really like my kids and I just need some supplemental income. I'll do 12, one a month. Fine. We can accommodate one a month. Like, again, back human, like, talk to them. What do you need? Not what do I need? I
Right.
approach everything. What can I do for you?
Gotcha.
It's the best way to go, I think.
And so you have the personal marketing company that
Yep.
keeps them in touch. What do you do, and again, in the human side of this, to up supplement what goes on with that program?
Yeah, so the birthdays, we were talking about, like, most of us have Facebook. Everybody has their birthday in there. We get a notification every single time we log in about the 4 or 5 birthdays that we have in our friend group, right? There might even not be people that you talk to very often. Send them a message, give them a phone call. I downloaded Bitmoji. It's the cartoon Snapchat thing where you can send happy birthdays and things like that. So I go crazy with this though. So to make sure that I'm staying in touch with everybody, I kind of get a little nuts. I go through my text messages for the last year on holidays and I send a Bitmoji. So 4th of July, I will spend about 2 hours
Wow.
sending a Bitmoji to every single person that I've had a conversation with via text in the last year.
Wow, that's awesome.
So I guarantee that I'm going to hit people, and then even people that I sent, hey, what's your name?
Mhm.
Hi, crazy realtor.
That's awesome.
Yep.
And what about the community updates and things like that? Do you tap into, hey, there's a new development going up, or hey, did you find out that the school's doing this different? Or like, do you talk about stuff like that as
I
well?
haven't gotten into that. I probably
Okay.
will.
Okay.
That to me is further down the line with what we're working on, but it's a very integral piece. So those are that have it. Congratulations. I got to do that next. So.
Gotcha. And what about referrals? That's another big area, right? Where people forget to ask at a time, well, at the time of the close, but in other times too. What do you do to ensure that you're nurturing referrals as much as you can?
To get them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the number one thing that you want to do is build your online reviews, as we all know.
Okay.
So pick one. I don't care which one, whichever one you
Okay.
feel is right to you, and grow those reviews, because then you have something to point people to.
Okay.
Even though if they know you, like you, and trust you, some people still like validation.
Yep.
So that's going to be the first thing. And then what I
Okay.
do, like I was explaining, is I build out a contact card with my birthday, my wife's birthday, our anniversary, my kids' birthdays, my work number, my work email, my website, my lender's website, literally in your phone. Just make a contact for yourself. And mine is named Josh Flo Work Mobile. And
Okay.
I send that contact card to people. And when I send it, I say Josh Flo Work Mobile. And at the time, I have changed the contact name to referral from Blake Deconic, is a past client of mine. So when I send it to him, it saves in his phone that way. So when he sends it to people, I told them
Oh.
that Blake, I can't pay you per referral. That's against the law, but I can do this. I can be aware that referrals are coming to you, and I'd love to, maybe treat you and your girlfriend to dinner or something with me and my family. So it's
Mhm.
like just finding a way to help to make them feel good about sending it. Like, hey, I can't pay you, but of course people don't really want to be paid. They just want to pass along a quality service to somebody that they know, because they want them to have the same service. So I just
Exactly.
added the little tweak of, they're going to be aware that it came from you at all times. So hopefully 4 years down the road, when we're still doing business together, they're going to remember it came from Blake, and they're going to remind Blake that they did another deal. So it's going to create a circular system of, hey, we're all helping each other. And I guess to that point, I have a very important one that I think would be really good for a lot of people. What we're going to start doing is branded business card holders, ihomehunt.com, with the phone number on it. And then inside are going to be our referral partners, roofers, title, mortgage, plumbers, all the people that we work with, on a a lot in there. And then for mine's just going to say call with referral code on a separate card, Flo Real Estate. And they have, then at will, they can give an offer or not give an offer, and change it or do whatever they want with it. But the point is, I'm handing over, it's probably going to cost me like $5. So it's a marketing expense, but you can leave that with your clients at closing. You can hand it to them, at your first showing. Like you just have to put things in your arsenal, like to keep business flowing and keep referrals flowing. So that's to get referrals from your business referral network there. You go in theirs, they go in you, and it's just having the conversation like I got to keep getting quality, and if I'm not, then just setting the expectation up front, we're going to have a conversation. So it's just finding the excuses not to do things. Find the reasons to do things, not the reasons not to do things.
Right.
There's a lot of reasons to do things, and because we know this, because at the end of the day, we spend most of the evening kicking our ass for all the things we didn't do. So just do them, and then spend your evening, enjoying yourself, I guess, instead.
So maybe make a sign everywhere that you look all the time that says "Stop the butt." Get rid of the butt.
Actually, excuse my French, but our entire family, my kids included, the 7-year-old included, say "cut the bullshit."
Stop telling yourself lies, right?
Yeah. No, and that's with the where we playfully use the swear words, because they make an impact in the mind, and the point is to impact the mind. So
love it. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of agents, I think, right now that are just worn out. It's just been a long couple of years.
Yeah.
COVID's just been one like we've been in business in the same year since 2020. It just continues on and on. But
I was surprised with the inflow of agents. I was living it going, how do these people think this is fun? Like, they just kept coming. Like, what are you doing? We're dying out here.
Yeah, I don't know. Somehow it looks easy to people that are not in it's like any business, like, oh, that business looks easy. Yeah, just be in that business for a little while. You'll see the difference.
We hire them to do it. To the fans I had installed, hour and a half done. It would have taken me all day. The point is that they do make it easy, because that's what we pay them for, and that's what people pay us for. If it was truly as easy as people think it is, then we wouldn't have careers. It just wouldn't happen.
Exactly. And the interesting thing with this research we just did is realtors, while it's been a really tough go in the last couple of years because it's been so busy and crazy and no inventory, et cetera, I actually think the realtor brand is moving up because consumers understand how hard it is too, right? So
seeing it, yeah.
Like it's if you've worked through something with someone in this time, if they come back a few years later, they'll be like, oh, that Josh guy, he was there for me when I needed him. They remember that you were there in that tough time. You're getting more credit, that's a good thing, because you deserve it. People have worked their butts off in the last couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Okay, next slide. All right, so there's a bunch of cool stuff, and I'm going to ask you to kind of give us your favorites, Josh, in just a second. But for anybody that wants to understand how Boomtown works, and it sounds like there's lots of different ways to take advantage of Boomtown too. It isn't, there isn't just one path, but you'll see that
the only thing you did, in my opinion, is sign up for it and let Success Assurance go after it. You'd be in a better position a year from now than you were the day that you signed up, because they're going to feed you probably 3, like, hey, I'm actually talking to people, and then you just got to pick up the phone and talk to them, like, so that's my take on it. Like, just use it, just find something, and just start with something. So
okay, so there's the URL, boomtownroi.com/product-tour. Don't forget the dash, probably. So definitely, you can click on that link on the QR code, and it'll take you there as well. But so let's go back to that question, because that is one of the buts, right? So from your perspective, I know people are all in different places, but from your perspective, what was the thing that kicked you over the top to say, I got to do something differently? And how did you find this one? And why do you think this is Boomtown's the right one? Why is it working for you?
Well, I guess the reason that it's working for me is I've been traveling to real estate seminars. I've been listening to the really smart people in real estate talk. And through my entire real estate career, Boomtown has always been a constant. And I landed at a different, I'll say a different brokerage because I don't want to go down that road, that had a CRM system. That I saw the power of what having a CRM system could truly do. Played around with the one that this particular brokerage brought, and I thought it was junk. And I decided that I'm going with expensive over free because of expensive gets a lot more done. And I say expensive because I think that's the biggest but or excuse or whatever you want to call it to Boomtown. We're operating businesses. There's no way around it. We need tools to run our businesses. So if you want to do a handful of deals a year, I can teach you how to get by just fine without a CRM. If you want to do any more than that, then you got to find a CRM. And honestly, just consider it a cost of business. And that's what you got to bring in every month to support that cost of business. Because in my mind, I can't let it go away. It's the driving force in my business. So I do everything I can to make my Boomtown payment. And I hope that, they probably enjoy that. But it's not like I'm struggling. But my point is that's the last thing to go. Because that's my website. That's my database. That's my people. That's my business. Like, it's the most powerful thing that we can implement in our business. And we all say, well, it costs too much. So does being broke. That costs
that costs a lot more.
Overdraft fees add up fast.
That's a good point.
And then you don't have money to fix it. At least this way you have a chance at money to fix it. So
you bring up a good point, and none of us want to think about this, but the truth is, with all of this economic uncertainty, we don't know where the world's going. We don't know where this economy is going. We don't know where the real estate market demand is going, right? It could be up, it could be down. We don't know. But I think your point is well taken, that sometimes when we get into a market that looks like it's going down, right? And real estate does this, it's just the nature of the beast. People start slicing and dicing, and they cut off their nose to spite their face, right? So they start cutting programs like this.
Yeah.
What I'm hearing you say is this is absolutely the last thing you should cut. Don't cut this.
I'm still at it, even in the face of all this, because I understand that on the other side of it, we need those leads. So I'm pushing forward with all my business relationships. I'm pushing forward with all my spending, and I'm finding ways to finance it because I know coming out the other end of it, we're going to have the tools and systems in place to capitalize on whatever it is. So,
we did these things called coffee chats when COVID first started, and we interviewed a bunch of people that were, like you, proactive, not afraid. Like, some people just got frozen when all that happened, right?
I'm afraid, but I've realized that there's not that much to be afraid of.
Right.
Like,
we're going to
go broke. We're still safe. We're still alive.
We're still alive. Exactly.
Yeah, like, I mean, what's, so it's just, anyway.
But to a person, that was the difference between those that were frozen and afraid and those that were maybe afraid but still moving forward, was they were leaning in on things, right? Because they knew smartly that a lot of people are going to pull back. And when everyone else pulls back and you lean in, that's when you can really win, right? Because you're doing proactive things and other people have gotten frozen in their tracks and have stopped. So
just do the opposite of what the masses are doing.
Exactly. So a group like this, like you say, how does that expression go? Cheap? No, how does it go? It's like value is what you receive, right? Price is only related to what the value you receive. So yeah, you could buy something cheap or not buy something at all.
I have so many conversations with people and they try and justify the cost the whole time, and I have to stop them and tell them I don't care.
Right?
I mean, I do. I have to be able to afford it, but like, I really don't care.
Right.
I want to find out, what does it do for me? And then if it does a lot for me, how do I afford it?
Right.
So it's changing the conversation with yourself.
Exactly. So just in your bottom line, because you're a very bottom line guy, Josh, that's what I love about you. You're like, keep it
Yeah.
simple. Don't get too complicated. I'm not, I don't want to go there. Why is this the last thing you would cut in a good market, in a down market, and in any market? Why is this the last thing that would go?
It's the biggest net. It's just the biggest net. It's a website. All you have to do is you can write it on a piece of paper and spend no marketing and leave it around on every table you ever go to eat with. And somebody's probably going to visit your website. And then you have the CRM to take care of them. And if you have, the concierge and success insurance in place, you can be in a coma and they're going to be still talked to.
Right.
It's just it's just the meat of everything we do. And if we ever stand a chance to compete with the technology that's coming after us more and more and more and more every day,
right.
Why aren't we doing the things that the technology companies are doing? Why are we still trying to pretend like there's a different, better way? I mean, their way is wrong, trust me, but they're going in the right direction. I mean, we need to go that way, but we need a hybrid model, and that's what we're trying to work on.
Awesome. Okay. Everybody on the call, is there anybody that has any questions? As you can hear, Josh is kind of a library full of practical advice.
No. So just to everyone, it's just about the seminars. Attend them and listen. Tony, Boomtown. I went to Jeff Cohen the other day. Not long ago. Just go learn new stuff.
Be a humble learner.
Yes.
Don't ever think you've got it all figured out. Got it. Okay, good. Okay, any questions anybody's got that's on the call before we cut out for the day?
Go ahead, shoot. I'm open.
Yeah, I don't see anybody. I think you've blown them away with so much wisdom. They've got everything they need now, Josh. Okay, well, I appreciate everybody that came today, Josh. You've been awesome. If we were full with people like you, our industry would be even better. But if you need to hear about this and you want to hear it from someone that really understands the system, just go to boomtownroi.com/product-tour. And they'll tell you all about it. And that, you can look at the different pieces and see where it makes sense. But I think that one takeaway from this, get rid of the buts. The buts are slowing you down. So get rid of those.
Stop.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone. I appreciate it. Bridget, thanks for your help.
I'll do one plug for Boomtown. If you get Parker or Andrew as your sales rep, they usually loop me in to help close you. So you can have more insights if you land with one of them.
Okay, Parker or Andrew, that's what we've got to ask for. Okay, got it. I love it. All right, guys. Thanks, everybody. Hope you're having a wonderful summer.
Thanks, Josh.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.